watched the couple episodes of The Parkers growing up. So like I
Monique is
knew,
my favorite.
yes,
Monique is my inspiration
yeah,
for
yeah.
everything.
I love
But
Monique.
wait, before we continue, I want to introduce
Sorry,
you.
sorry.
You warned me you were going to go off script,
Yeah.
and I love that for us because
Sorry.
she's that off script girly too.
Yes.
But I want to introduce you, Omar, also known as El Techichi.
Yes.
But wait, Omar, what's your last name again? I'm so sorry. You just told me.
It's Monroy.
Monroy. Okay,
Yes.
gorgeous. Omar Monroy. And then El Techichi, is the El Techichi the name of your line?
Yes.
Your jewelry
It's
line.
the name of my.
Because you are a jewelry maker.
Yes. I think so. Yes.
You are one. And you were
Really?
talking about making jewelry in the pandemic. Had you made jewelry before that?
Kind of. So I am a jewelry photographer.
So that was first.
That was first, yeah, because
Okay.
I went to Pratt.
Okay, so you said you came here for Pratt. Did you grow up somewhere else?
So I am, me and my family, we're all of New Sabi descent, and so we are from the Baja Mixteca in which is like Plan del Vergel, a bunch of other pueblos. It's not just this, but it's just like we're from Plan del Vergel, which is like the biggest city close to it is Huajuapan, and so we have like Mariscala de Juarez and Zacatecas, or Zacatepec, sorry. Those are the two closest pueblos, and so the New Sabi or the Mixteca, which is the word given to a lot to us by like the Aztecs, because the Aztecs had like different words, and they were.
And
like,
now
a lot-
these are cities or pueblos in Mexico.
Oaxaca, yes,
Oaxaca,
in Oaxaca,
yes.
yes. So I'm originally from there, but I was born in Mexico City. I was born
Okay.
in Azcapotzalco, which is like, so Mexico City is kind of like New York, where there are like a
Like
different
boroughs,
neighborhood,
yeah,
neighborhoods
or
and stuff.
neighborhoods.
And Azcapotzalco is, from what my mom tells me, was like at that point kind of like the Brooklyn Bronx part of Mexico City, where it was like, she's like, I've
The lit
been
part.
mugged a couple times,
Yeah.
and but that was like where, when my tia Orlando moved from Plan del Vergel to Mexico City first, and then my mom followed, and then my tia Flor followed, and then my tios, and then my tios eventually made the trek to the colonized United States first.
Okay.
And when
and then your family followed, or your mom and you.
So my mom and my brother and I. So I have one like full sibling and some other ones that we won't mention.
Same. I got the same. I don't want to mention those other siblings either. No, JK. What age did you come to? Did you move to Brooklyn, or did you move when you moved to the United States?
California.
Okay, California.
So Ontario, California, i.e. Inland Empire. For those of you who aren't familiar with it,
we love the inland. We love the Empire.
Yes, it's
girlies.
like
the IE girlies.
Exactly.
What are your pronouns?
Oh, she, they.
Okay, she.
Yes.
Work. I love the she, they.
Yes.
I call everyone she, they, girl, which
Me
is so
too.
bad. Everyone. If I don't call you that, that's a problem.
Exactly.
Or bitch. If I don't address you as like bitch,
I know.
then,
me too.
Yeah,
me too.
But,
my partner's always just like,
everyone
who is
gets
she?
the girl. Everyone gets a bitch. Hetero. Everyone.
Exactly.
It's a term of endearment.
Exactly. Because I'm like, if I'm calling you he, then like, what'd you do?
Yeah. But why? Why would we want to do that?
Exactly. Literally. So she's a she, they. She's a non-binary trans Nasabi, which is woman of New Sabi descent.
And New Sabi is a tribe.
New Sabi is a people, yes. It's a people that are from the Sierra Mixteca in Oaxaca, which is like it's one of the Sierras.
Yes.
And so we're from like the lower part of it, like the lower part of the mountain.
Did your family grew up knowing this information?
So I've been doing a lot of. It's really interesting because I've been doing therapy for almost a year, which have been the best decision of my entire human existence.
To one day be able to do that for me and my daughter.
Yes. No, my God. And I kind of have been doing the therapy, and has been really helping a lot. And so my mom, I love her. She's such a strong woman, but she's been through a lot.
Yeah.
And recently, within the last couple of years, she had a mastectomy because she had stage 4 breast cancer.
Double
And
mastectomy?
no, just one.
Just one. Okay.
So I've been kind of like wanting to, and because we live so far away, I call her every day. And even if it's just to say hello, because she's always, I just want to hear your voice. And I've
Yes.
also started to notice that like when I don't call her for like a long period of time, I kind of like don't know how to exist.
Yeah.
You know,
Because that's your grounding. That's your root, right?
it is. And so I was talking to her, and you never really think about your parents as people until like I guess you like go to therapy or like you reach a certain age.
Yeah.
And
You realize they're just flawed human beings
yes.
who were trying to do whatever they were trying to do
Yeah.
and fucked up along the way and fucked you up along the way
Yeah,
sometimes.
she
Sometimes
like
not.
yeah,
Yeah.
we've had like some breakthroughs with that. I'll call her sometimes when I'm walking back from the shop on like a
Yeah. Are you
Sunday.
like, Mom, are you like giving her the
No,
business?
no.
Okay.
So I've been talking to her a lot, and I was just like, Mom, like, what do you know about like our ancestry, like our heritage? And she was just like, well, I don't know. She's like, my grandpa used to talk a lot about La Mixteca, and I was just like, okay, yes, and I did like an ancestry thing
Yeah.
because from the get go, going into this, I knew I was going to be fought and my identity was going to be questioned. And growing up, being myself, my identity has always been questioned,
Yeah.
because. And I've been telling a lot of people this story recently. Like when I was growing up in California, there is this like group called MECHA, and it's an acronym for Mexican American something, and I forgot. But it was like where you would like a program in like my high school where you would like uh, hang out and like learn like folklorico, like traditional dance,
Yes.
And I remember and I was just recently telling my mom that, and I'm like, oh, you remember that neighbor girl, like I'm like not gonna like drop her name because apparently my mom gets people that come into the salon sometimes and tell her they know me because they went to high school with me, and I'm like, they don't know me. No one knew me in high school. I was just
They
like,
knew of
I
you.
was just like the weird fat kid sitting with the nerdy weird people by the trash cans by the science center, like
Yes.
because
But you were memorable.
I guess so. I've always
That your
yeah.
mom knows so because they were like,
Yeah.
yeah. Because they're probably like, wait, where is
Yeah,
Omar?
she always says I'm like New York,
They want to know. And so
New
there's
York.
like, New York,
Yeah,
honey.
but my mom when my so I had one of my
Also, your mom is a hairstylist, which is like another
yes
layer of
exactly like
fierceness
family,
that I'm living because we love a hairstylist.
So she's done our hair forever.
Oh my God, I love it. I
Like
love it, love it, love it.
there were only a couple of times where my tia Flor, who also does hair, where she cut my hair. I think it was only like a couple times, but my mom we were like her practice dolls,
Yeah, of
like me and my
course.
brother.
That's what your family, you
So
grow up. That's your practice
exactly.
dolls.
So I always tell people like I've had like pretty much every haircut for like men and boys under
Yeah.
the sun. I have had like the flat top.
Were you like, I just want to grow my hair long?
No, so
Were you ever like, I just want long hair
so it's
to do the,
yeah. So I didn't really have a personality growing up
okay.
because I wasn't sure what a personality was.
Oh my God, you're such a Libra.
Yeah.
You're like the idea of the personality.
Yeah, and one of the things.
I love it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
That's so
you're
funny.
fine.
It's so true.
It's just like my tios are very men.
Yeah.
They're very old school, chapeados a la antiguas, as we say.
Machismo.
Yes, no offense to all the tios and all of my tios.
Oh no, we love it.
Not that
we
anyone
love the
my
trade
family's
uncles,
gonna.
honey.
Yeah. But so my mom is a single mom, single parent. 'Cause my father was very abusive, and so I'm very typical trans kid, mama's kid,
Yeah,
like
mama's girl,
mama's
boy.
Yes, I was so attached to my mom, and because I came here and I was 7, and my brother we're like 3 years apart. What's math like? So he was like 4.
Yeah.
And we didn't know anything. We just knew our mom, and like
Aww.
so it's a very long story, but
so you immigrate to
California
Ontario,
in
to the
1999.
Inland
Yeah, it's the Inland
Empire,
Empire, and
and you don't have a personality.
I don't. It's
And
just really,
and then you're in like in America, and then you're in like
yeah,
the Inland Empire, which is like its own vibe,
yeah.
which is a trip.
It
Because
was
it's
really
like California, but it's like the desert.
it was really, yeah, it was like Chaparral. It's like the name of like the I'm such a fucking nerd for like weird facts, but it's like chaparral type area, like that's what it's called, because it's like deserty, but there's like nature,
Yes,
and there's waterways, and so I've come
chaparral
to
work.
yes,
Okay, come
ecosystems.
Yes.
So it was really weird because like now thinking back at it, like one of my first memories was just kind of like waking up. So my uncles had moved to Ontario, and they had this like apartment complex that was just 4 apartments, like A, B, C, and D. Ooh. And my family lived in A, B, and C.
Work.
And so it was very typical like immigrant families where it was like there were like 3 families per apartment, even though it was a 2-bedroom.
Of course.
And so we came first, and my mom got delayed a little bit because she got doing the thing
at the border.
Yeah.
Ooh, she got. Okay, the girls.
And so, which is like why you're asking like if I like give her hell or anything, but like I understand why why a lot of times we didn't like have conversations, because she has been having to do this by herself since my brother was born. And having to literally cross the desert.
Also, literally the same Libra response, because we have so much compassion for our family, for our mothers especially. At a young age, I had the same for my mom. I knew not everything, but I knew a lot, enough for me to be, as a child, to be like, have empathy for her and some of the things that she would say or do. And I was like, I knew I was dealing with like this hurt person. And so of course the Libra girls, we're all like, oh my God, you see we're just like always like balanced, like okay, but my mom did have to do this for me to like
and which is like it's hard because like now looking back, because like I'm in therapy, so I know how the world works.
Of course, you figured it all out.
Yeah, literally all of it.
It's all done.
Signed, sealed, delivered. Where's my diploma?
Yes,
life
bell
coach,
hooks,
right?
Let's go.
Yes. I just like looking back, I'm like, okay, I understand like that was a trauma response, and like this is like why she would do certain things, or then why we ended up doing certain things, because me and my brother were kind of like latchkey kids after I went into like middle school. Because my tias were still living in that same apartment complex up until I think like 2006, and then they all moved to Fontana. So everyone started moving to Fontana and to like Rialto, but we stayed in Ontario for as long as we could, which is hard. Is Fontana
sometimes also in the Inland Empire?
Yeah, it's like all that San Bernardino County.
That same. Okay.
Yeah. And it was hard sometimes because sometimes we would have to like, my mom would have to ask me if I could ask like the landlord if we could like lower the rent for a little bit, which is
because you spoke English.
Yes, that was the thing too, is that I learned how to speak English like pretty quickly, as like that's what my mom likes to say, because it was very like, okay, I'm gonna have to help out. And like me and like my cousin Myra were like the oldest ones at that time, so we were doing like the translating, and so
the deals, you were booking deals, you were
literally
like negotiating the rent, which
is
like at like, how old were you, like in middle school or something?
Like a lot of it was like throughout our existence in that place, so like from like I want to say like maybe like 8 up.
You're like
a lot.
These are things that certain kids in America especially don't ever have to experience.
Exactly.
And it's so it makes you who you are today, which is
awesome. And I think that's where like some people
perspective.
Some people have said that like I have a lot of patience for a lot of like crap, and I'm like, I think that comes from having to be one of these immigrant kids and having to put up with a lot, and so I'm putting myself last and like prioritizing everybody else, which has been like a really big issue.
Yes,
As my
and
therapist,
that's giving therapy,
yes, and my
right?
therapist has been like, okay, you make a lot of sense now. Now it's like, not you
Yeah.
make a lot of sense now. Okay,
Yes, not the therapist reading you, not
yes.
her hitting the shade button on you.
Yes, literally. I love my therapist though. Shout out to
God, you have a good
Tasia.
therapist.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh,
I
describe
really
your therapist is a woman,
yes. So they're
a woman of color,
yes. Okay.
a
So this
white
was
lady. Okay,
when
no.
I finally made a decision that I needed to be in therapy was because there was a lot going on in my life, and there's a lot of things going on in my head, and I'm just like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it if I don't talk to someone. And my partner had like repeatedly told me like, I am not your therapist, which is valid,
Yes, totally valid.
and which is like, I'm dating a white person, which is, you know, my sin to
Yeah.
bear. Um, so
Yes,
there's
that's the
a
whole thing.
lot. Yes.
My baby daddy is
Oh,
a white person,
yes.
so
And
I get
so
it. Yeah,
it's just like there's a lot that they don't get, you know,
it's
even though
true,
they
and
can
they
try.
think they get
Yes. Oh
sometimes.
my God.
It's like,
Yeah.
girl, I'm so
But I'm
sorry.
like, yes, you have your trauma, valid. Yes, we're
Yeah.
all allowed our trauma, but
Yes.
sometimes it's just like, it's not giving and you
Yeah.
can't force yourself
You
to give.
don't get it. Yeah.
So I was just like, okay, if I'm gonna go to therapy, I'm gonna find one that is like on a sliding scale, and they have to be queer, and they have to be a person of color, um, and like, so those are like my four things. And so I have a friend, Jessica, shout out Jessica, who is also a social mental health care doctor person. She's also a therapist.
Okay, work.
But so I reached out to her and I was like, I know
Now
that
she
you.
can't be your
Yes.
therapist
So
because she's your
she's my
friend.
friend. Yes. So I told her, I was like, hey, so I know that you can't be my therapist, but I was wondering if you had any resources for me because I really need some help and I don't
Yeah.
have health insurance. So do you know any therapists or do you have any friends that would be like willing to do like sliding scale? And she sent me this whole ass list, you
Bitch,
know.
I need the list.
Yes, of
I
course.
need
I
it.
always send it to people.
And is it a telehealth thing, like over online, or is it in
It's a mix
person?
of both.
Oh,
The
I
whole
love.
list is a mix of both.
You
Just
need to send all of this to me because
yeah,
I
and then
need to get
yeah.
help.
Well,
Also, BetterHelp can be a sponsor. BetterHelp
oh, I've heard things though
sponsor the
about.
dolls. Oh, tell me the things.
I've heard like
BetterHelp is not better.
yeah, because my
She ain't good.
partner used to work for Art New York, and now they work at the Matisse Foundation, which is like
Work.
much more money, and
Yes, she
really
got
good.
her a white man with money.
Yes,
We love
it gets
that.
more complicated. No, I'm
The
just kidding.
yeah, more money, more problems.
Yes,
Oh, no
literally.
Diddy.
But they have really good health insurance, and they would allow me to be enrolled in the health insurance if we do the whole like domestic partnership thing, which is
Yes.
just like, oh my god, it's kind of like marriage, and
Wait, also, oh my God, Libras, we are not the marrying type.
I know.
Wait, but
Oh
tell
my
me, how long have
god,
you been with your partner?
9 years. We just did 9 years.
Oh my God, this
It,
is the same. And you know why me and my ex actually got married? My baby daddy was
yes.
for health insurance.
Oh my
Because
god.
Estee Lauder, they for years they had domestic partnership, and then once Estee Lauder bought Bumble and Bumble 100%, they flipped it. They're like, you have to be same sex or married to get your health insurance. And I
Oh
was
my
like, oh my
god.
God, girl. I'm like, we gotta
Yeah.
get married, girl. So we got
Literally.
married.
Oh my god.
But then we got divorced. So,
Yeah.
but
It's
yeah.
like it's like so like I know that it's just like
But
technically
wait,
not, but
can you
like
get the insurance? Oh,
um
but you have to do the
I
domestic
have to,
part.
yeah, so Adam is my partner and the father of my chihuahua.
Hi,
Uh
Adam, baby daddy.
and he just started literally like a couple weeks ago and was just like, so this is like the health insurance and they're telling me that you can be added onto it, but we just have to do like the whole like domestic partnership through the court and we have to pay like x amount of money and you just have to wait until like the next enrollment cycle, which is like September.
Wow.
And I was just like, okay, because she's been trying to, it's like the first time like publicly going to talk about like trying to like go on like HRT, you know,
Work.
and also just get, I haven't been to the doctor in like I don't know, like 12 plus years.
Yeah. So common.
Yes.
It's so crazy.
It is so wild because Leanna, shout out Leanna,
yes,
Shui, we love them.
We love
we've
Leanna.
kind of bonded over or like talked about how it's like so impossible, not only as an Indigenous individual to get healthcare like here in New York, but also like as like an immigrant. It's like so hard, and like the pricing is like so skewed, you know, like I don't make enough to like actually live. So health insurance people are like, okay, but you make enough for you to give me $200 a month.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
and that's
all
of
my
money.
Paycheck.
Yeah.
Literally, like, what the fuck? Like, you know,
make it make sense, because
exactly.
It really freaking doesn't.
So that's something that I'm mulling over.
Right.
You know, like
because New York Indian Council, you have to be
you have
tribal
to be
affiliated.
Yes, and it has to. It's like northern,
federally
only.
recognized northern tribes.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it, and like that's the tea. You know, like that's the thing.
That's the tea.
You know, and so growing up, I was undocumented for 18 years of my life, and my brother for like I think like if I was 18, he was probably like what 15. And so was my mom, and we couldn't get health insurance. So every time that it was like back to school and we would need to get a physical, we would get what is like emergency health insurance, and it would only last for a month. And that's the only way that we could have gone and gotten a physical and a dental checkup and like medicines if we needed them. But and then after a month it expired. So we got sick, and we went, like, we would have to, like, reapply for emergency all over again, or we would have to pay out of pocket.
Okay.
And so it became kind of increasingly hard and kind of traumatic also, like, as a plus-size kid to, like, go to the doctor and be constantly reminded that the reason why you feel unhealthy is because you're fat. And, you know, and it was, so my whole thing with, like, my body has been really complicated because when I was growing up, I had an aunt who is such an Herbalife fanatic.
The Herbalife girls.
Yeah. And I was test subject number 499.
They were like, you're gonna lose weight on this shit.
And I did, but because I was forced to drink about 2 gallons of their diet tea every day, and I would have a shake, and like I would be fed, yes, but we're also still Mexican, so we had like the tortillas and the queso and all of that. But there was like you had to take pills in the morning, pills at night, drink 2 gallons of their diet tea, and like so I had lost weight. And then I stopped, and I gained all that weight back and more. And then everyone was disappointed. And so
wait, so the Herbalife, you don't just keep taking it?
No.
Or can I just keep taking it?
Like you can keep taking it, but that's the thing is
what
like
is
you
the
have
Herbalife
to
in
keep...
it? Is it like fen? Like what is it?
I
giving?
don't. It's like so. It was like made by this white guy, and
is
nothing
it vitamins?
ever. Yeah, it's like weight loss supplements and like protein shakes, and now it's kind of like evolved into more of like I want to say of a cult.
Yeah.
You know, because now they've also like...
And they got the grip on the Latinas, girl.
Yes, they do. And because...
grips.
Yes, because I feel it's such a thing with like... Especially within this country, quote unquote country, when you come in and when you're start living here, you're immediately told to assimilate, to learn the language, and to like be as close to a white person as humanly possible, or else there will be repercussions.
Right.
And
like that European standard of beauty that we've been held captive
by
and for centuries.
For a very, 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 very long time. Even so, like my family, when we were growing up, TV was still in Spanish, music was still in Spanish. I didn't really listen to music in English until like maybe middle school, and then I didn't really listen to a lot of it until,
what did you listen to in middle school?
Chamillionaire, I think, you know, with like Sierra, you know.
Work.
Like I would hear music like on like the bus radio. If there was if when we were take the bus to school when we were in elementary school. The first song actually that I heard in English was Pump Up the Jam, Technotronic. because
a great introduction into American music.
Yeah, my tios came here in the 90s. And so all of that music was like pumping, and they came here they're like young, like teenagers, young adults. Like,
or were they into like freestyle and stuff too?
I don't know. That's another thing too, is that like, because I have such a weird relationship with men, and because like my uncles like weren't very like, hey, come over here, let's talk about feelings and shit, then I never really got to like learn a lot about who they are. So that's why I'm doing it with my mom. Yeah. Because one, now that I like...
Well, also men are just not like into like, oh yeah, let me tell you about myself.
Yeah, literally. Girl, it's like
that's just men in general.
I know, it's which is like, I still have such a hard time talking to men. Like, I get so... like freaked out and flustered and like
what's really going on?
Like, men are so unapproachable, even and like which is really interesting because like one of my best friends is a man, a cis man, and my other best friend is a cis woman.
Oh, I love a best friend cis man.
Yes,
we love a cool ally,
and he really is. And
when the allies get it, they get it.
Yeah,
it's like,
like
oh my God.
he's so sweet, and he
wait, is it Pedro Pascal?
No,
if that's your best friend.
Oh my God,
because he's giving cis man, but
he
like
is
one of the girls.
Yeah, my bestie is Alexander, and we were freshman roommates at Pratt.
Out.
Yeah, and we've been
friends ever since.
Yeah, we have shared a lot of memories because we went to Pratt.
Yes.
And Sammy Joe, we've also known each other since our freshman year.
And this is a cis woman.
Yes.
Okay.
She's a stunning cis Black woman who is the most beautiful person on the planet, and who was my muse all through college. Like, every time I wanted to do I wanted to be this like grandiose fashion photographer.
Yeah, so so you're growing up
sorry, I'm just like
undocumented, negotiating the rental fees, the first, the last, and the deposit. And then you go to school for photography. Yeah. How did you get into photography in high school? How did you get into photography?
So my last year of high school was really weird because it was also at that moment where my father had got notification that we had to leave the country because we had gotten our appointments at the consulate in Ciudad Juarez for our green cards. And so I was like, I was AP, all of this class, like honor, like courses and stuff. And so I was like, I was like on that track. And then I got that word, and I was just like, my father was never really big on like school. So he didn't care, but I cared. And I was just like, I need to talk to my guidance counselor.
Because he was trying to do what?
He was like, he was just like, I'm going to come and I'm going to pick you up, and then we're going to go, and that's it.
Gonna go back to Mexico?
Yeah, because like we had to, like when you get that summons, you have to go to Ciudad Juarez, and which is like a really, really, we had
What is the summons for?
It's for you to like go and do your interview.
Oh, to get
the green card.
To America?
Yeah.
Oh, so you have to show up to the look.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we like, my father came, and before that I was like, okay, I need to get all this in order. So I had to do it like before the end of the summer. So I talked to like my guidance counselor, and I was like, this is the situation. I would like to graduate. Like, I would like to finish. I was like literally in my last semester of senior year.
Okay, cool.
And
cool.
So they were able to like pull some strings.
Yes.
But I had to like finish school online, and it was like at the basic level because the school district that I was at had like online school and like school like for people who were like not allowed to go to school regularly, moms, IE stuff.
Yeah. Yes.
And so they were like, okay, you're gonna do that. You're gonna be enrolled online. Yeah. You come in once a week, you do your courses, and then that's it. So I finished a little early. I think it was not that much early, but I like had taken or started to take a photography class because I was like ahead in credits. And so I had like I had like free time, which is like the last time I had free time.
Yeah.
And so I took this like film class for like about
From high school. In high
yeah,
school.
in
You
high
did.
school for
Okay.
like literally a week, but and then that's when like everything started to like go like happening with the
Okay.
green card. But this photographer would like, you know, white cis men photographers love to talk about who they've worked with, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
He handed us a list of photographers, you know, and on that list of photographers was Richard Avedon. And I knew of Twiggy
The
because I was
legends.
obsessed with America's Next Top Model, you
Okay.
know.
Oh my God, love.
And so as soon as I saw all of that, all of his imagery and like it's like Irvin Penn, I think is his
Yep.
name.
Irving Penn.
And Helmut Newton.
Helmut Newton. Iconic.
Yeah, I was just like, okay. So
So you liked black and white photography.
I liked fashion photography.
Okay.
And like, well, the class wasn't like black and white.
Because all of those photographers are really famous.
Yeah, for like
Black
they're
and
like old
white.
school.
Like
But then
Richard
like you see
Avedon's
like Richard
portraits.
Avedon's like color work for like
Yeah.
Versace in the 90s.
Yeah.
That was really 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 cool too.
It is really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was like, and I think what I love about it is because I think there's something about film in the 90s and the way that he shot it, that colors were like not only like saturated but also kind of pastel at the same time. And you know Versace stuff is so like maximalist, and like, you know, it's like those photographs of like the models in like the clothing but the men are like nude and they're just like rocks, and like
they're like
chairs.
statues,
and I'm just like, oh, okay,
and the compositions of like the women and the men. Oh,
so I was just like, so Richard Avedon knew that men should just be rocks and chairs.
Yes, objects.
Right.
We can objectify that, literally.
And so,
and they love it. No, Jake, just kidding.
And so, yeah, that was kind of like my intro into photography.
That's amazing. So you got introduced by a great teacher because he was he one of the girls? Because that is very much.
He was like, this is a list of photographers, pick one to write a project about.
I love that.
And
that were great choices.
Yeah, and I think it was just kind of like meant to be because you know, I didn't stay very long because of all this stuff, and I did leave and go to Ciudad Juarez for, I think it was for about a week and a half.
So you went and did the appointment.
Yes, which was really nerve-wracking for an 18-year-old. Like people always think that like when you're 18, they're like, you're adult, you know, blah blah blah. But I was 18 and I had not spoken to my father since 2006 because my father's an ass.
Yeah.
And so it was like kind of being stuck in like, we were stuck in a hotel, and I'm trying to like exist with my brother and my father, who are both very like men, and I still didn't have a personality. So we had like this conversation about dinosaurs. I love dinosaurs. And he was just like, you know, those dinosaurs were put there by people because God is number one. You know,
this is your dad.
This is my dad.
And this is why we don't talk to dad.
Exactly.
Because,
it was a combination of that, the domestic abuse, that like, you know.
Overall, dickhead.
Yes. So I came back and I had applied to colleges while I was still, you know, and I had gotten into a few, but at the time that I had applied, I was still undocumented. There was no financial aid.
Right.
And then...
Did you take pictures when you were back in Mexico? Did you pick up a camera?
No.
So you just got exposed to like Helmut Newton, Avedon. Yeah.
And then I had to go to
Mexico.
Where I hadn't been since 1999. And you know, and I haven't been back to Oaxaca since 1999. But like, we've been to Ciudad Juarez and Juarez is a border town, you know.
Yes.
And when you're there, it's all business and it's all very like...
hectic too.
It is very, because you get there and immediately people start telling you, don't talk to anybody, don't tell anybody why you're there. Also, because Juarez was where a lot of femmes started missing.
Yes, killings
and all of that.
Happening.
And so it made the perfect place to put the U.S. Embassy. And so we had to do all that. You go in and we stayed at a hotel that was just a short drive from the embassy, and we had to go in and we had to do like a physical, you know, and so you get in line and you wait all day for you to go into this like cubby, which is like the size of this room.
Yeah.
No offense. And you have a doctor, you know, check your vitals, check your vaccination records, check your butthole, and it's just like, sorry.
Yeah.
And then you like go in and you get any vaccines that like you're missing, to be able to be a clean, decent human
To become
enter.
to enter America.
And that's like, but that's not even like, that doesn't mean that like, okay, you're ready to go. So then after that, you have to have all this paperwork.
And this is all happening at the U.S. Embassy
In Juarez.
Okay.
And you get all the paperwork. You cannot open any of it. If you open it, it's like, and you also, again, don't tell anybody, because there were like people whose like stuff was stolen, whose paperwork was stolen.
They're like, bitch, I'm this person now.
Because it was just like, and it all gets like sold off.
Yeah.
And we waited the day of our appointment, and it was really just nerve-wracking because it's me and my little brother and my father.
So wait, you get checked out, and then they give you the little pamphlet that you can't open, or the envelope, and so then you wait at the end of the week, and they tell you if it got approved, or
well, for us, I don't know. My brother, may or may not remember, but here's what I remember. We were waiting to get interviewed, and my father, they told my father that my brother was missing a form.
Of course. And welcome to America.
Literally.
Where y'all all are going to be missing forms for the rest of your life.
Exactly. And so,
bureaucracy. But it's so much fun.
When they told them that, the lawyer had told me that they were going to send, because I think I was still contacting the lawyer via email.
Mm-hmm.
And the lawyer told me that they were faxing the paper to the embassy. And so when they were like, well, Luis doesn't have, right? So Luis doesn't have the same paper, so we're going to have to do this and that. And I was like, no, my lawyer said that like they faxed that paper over. So can you look for it?
Check your fucking email.
And they found it. And they found it.
Human error.
And they found it. And always. So that was nerve wracking. And so then like we wait for another window to open up, and they ask, and that's when the interview starts. And it's like, how did you come into the U.S.? How long have you been in the U.S.? Like,
no, wait. What are you saying? Like, because is this like your first time in the U.S.?
No, like they've kind of been
new, that you were like, illegally undocumented.
They've been new that we've been living there, but when you tell them like how you enter, you can't be like, oh, like my ancestors that just walked across.
Yeah.
But so me and my brother actually like came by car.
Okay. Now, do you guys rehearse like what you're going to say to the immigration people?
Some lawyers do kind of like prepare you.
Yeah.
I don't like. I think my father was just like, don't say that you were like crossed like illegally, blah blah blah. So
yeah, so you can be like, yeah, I got here by car.
Yeah, so we're like, we got here by car. We've been here for like
the Rio Grande.
We were like, we've been here for like, I think at that point we had been there. 1999, 2012 was like what? I don't know math, like some odd years.
13 years.
And I think because I also was like at the cusp of being considered an adult.
Yeah.
So I was still considered a minor because my birthday had just been like, it's like been like 180 days before my birthday or whatever. So the white guy with glasses decided right there and then that we had been approved.
Oh, amazing. So stamped, approved.
Stamped, and then we had to wait a couple days for DHL to deliver our passports. It was still Mexican passports, but they had like a visa. It had like a visa on there. And then, but others weren't so lucky because we were in the hotel. Everyone in the hotel was doing the exact same thing. Oh. And there were people that had been there for like 2 weeks that had not heard back. And it was like, once you're there, you're there. You can't.
So if you come from America and go there, there's no going back.
There's no going back. Unless you do it. Unless you do like the coyote thing.
So you guys, you are accepted. You have your passport. You come back to California, to the Inland Empire. And how does Pratt Institute, how does this happen? Because you just learned about photography.
Postcard.
Yeah, how did Pratt come up?
I got a postcard from Pratt.
Oh, like in the mail because you're a senior because you just graduated.
And they're
like, give us your money.
Literally. And so, but I was also looking for a way out.
Yeah. Is Pratt private?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. And at that time, not that diverse. When I started going, because I actually started out in Utica, New York. Shout out Utica, even though people from Utica hate Utica, and I get it. It's a huge like opioid crisis and all of that.
Utica is giving opioid crisis, but wait, is there a Pratt there?
So in Utica, New York, there is a school that had been founded for like a really long time ago called Munson Williams Proctor, and then Munson Williams Proctor was either bought out or they paid to have a program.
Okay.
Pratt, MWP.
So you went there first.
So I went there first, and unfortunately very expensive. And because everything that I was doing for Pratt was very last minute, because I got waitlisted for Brooklyn, and then they told me that I could go in, which is really funny. My portfolio to Pratt was shot on my Rumor LG Touch, the cell phone from Richard Mobile. And
work.
Don't ask me how, but I got onto my little Acer plus my graduation gift that later got stolen from my mom, and I got on that computer. I cannot remember how I started editing, and it was like really weird, like photos of like shadows, and it was like
it probably looked literally like film because it was so like
and I was very at that time, it was like at the beginning, like kind of like beginning mid of like the hipster movement and the film, like the Brooklyn Nights being like film and like weird like portraits, like also like people with kind of like no talent being passed off as people with talent, and so I guess I fit the bill. Very much so. I could write a whole
but also something, I want to see your photographs, but something must have jumped out at them for them to be like, wait a minute.
I'd like to say that it was probably my personal statement, because I wrote about growing. There's something that I always talk about in my bios, and it's seeing lightning dragons in the sky. And there's one memory that I have of growing up in Wahuapan, and it was like, I think it was pretty much like one of our last weeks there. And I remember looking at the sky, and the Newsabi are known as people of the rain because it's always raining, or it was at that point. Climate change. Mexico is getting really hot. And I remember looking up the sky. The sky was like this like gray yellowish hue and open sky, because there's like it's like there's no skyscrapers, and it's like open sky. And I remember seeing like the lightning flash, and I was obsessed with like Dragon Ball Z, so seeing that lightning, it looked like a dragon. And I love living in my own head, because my mom, when we were growing up in Wahuapan, she had her beauty salon that she worked during the day, and she had a taco stand that she worked at night. And it was just me and my brother, and we had like neighbor friends, but I was very gullible. I was a very gullible kid. Very like I had no personality. I didn't know or haven't known how to exist or how to be alive until I started therapy, because I was just kind of like walking this plane of being like, I am here to do what everyone else is doing, like before I started therapy, and like kind of like, but when I started dating Adam, I was still identifying like a cis gay man. And I was just like, well, I'm just going to do like cis gay things, like that's why I had like lost all that weight. And I was just like, oh, like I'm not going to be that gay guy that like loves drag queens and like loves hanging around all the pretty girls. But it's because like I wanted to be that, know, like
you figured that.
My coming out was like really annoying and traumatizing, and it's one of the reasons why I don't have a good relationship with my brother,
right?
Because he outed me because I told on him.
Oh, this bitch.
And that my mom and I were always close, and then that happened, and then all of a sudden we weren't.
How old were you?
I was like, I think like 16,
Okay.
And he had
your brother was being petty.
Yeah.
And wait, how did your brother know?
I had written a letter to one of my cousins, my cousin Jenny, who I was very close to and had like opened up about. And I had written that letter, and then I just put it in my drawer, like my underwear drawer, my sock drawer, whatever. And he had found it because I guess he was looking for something. And so when that happened, he like showed my mom the letter, and and then of course you do the whole thing like, I think I'm just bi, not that bi people don't exist, bi people exist,
but you're like, wait, there's holding on to like
trying to lessen the blow.
all the way gay. I'm just halfway gay.
I'm round the way gay. Like, yeah, I'm round the way gay. And
right, like I still like the cooch.
Yes, but
really.
like because I wanted to
be
the cooch.
Okay.
I wanted to be the cooch.
Yes.
And you know, it was very. We had just recently talked about this too, and she was like, "I'm so sorry," because I didn't know how to react, and she had like, you know. The next morning, she told me that she had prayed that I would wake up and be normal. She took me to the doctor, and the doctor gave her the video to watch. She made me watch it, and it was a video about how queerness and homosexuality has been around forever. And she was just like, "That's literally not what I wanted the doctor
like, bitch, you need to watch this video."
Yeah, and she was just like, "But that's not what I wanted the doctor to tell you. That's not what I wanted this doctor to like tell you."
But then the doctor was like, "It's okay, you're normal."
Like in his very weird way, yes. And it was like, but for her, it was just kind of this, and that's why. I had only come out to her. I had not come out to any of my uncles, although I'm pretty sure they probably knew if she was telling my tío Agustin, and I had not come out to any of my aunts, and I was miserable. After that moment, I was miserable.
Because your mom, that was your girl, and then she
and
was
then all
like,
of a sudden,
ew, I'm not into this right now.
She was like. You could tell that, like, and it's kind of like, why did it hurt you? But like, you could tell that it hurt her.
Yeah.
You know, and it hurt me too because there was suddenly this like face crack.
Yeah.
You know, this mirror crack in our relationship, and I couldn't wait to get out. I didn't see a future for myself, period. I wasn't sure if I was going to live or die. Yeah. And like none of my family members know this.
Yeah, because again, that's your mom. That's your like grounding root.
Yeah.
And she's just like not feeling you. So then you're so lost because that was your that was your
and I had no one else
guide.
to like turn to, you know, and so and I told her this, I was just like, I wasn't sure how long I was going to be able to exist there because I didn't know how to exist, you know, because I was also graduating. Wasn't able to get a job because we were undocumented. So like our first jobs were sweeping hair at the salon.
Of course.
But you can't make a living sweeping hair at the salon. It's not 1999 again. The year 1993.
Yeah.
You know, you can't be like the host at the salon and make coins to live in the East Village.
Yeah, no.
You know,
the cost of living is way too high for that shit.
You know.
Unfortunately, I wish. Okay, so you're in Utica.
Mm-hmm.
You are waitlisted for Brooklyn. How was Utica? How was that experience? You're out. You're open. You're gay.
At first I was kind of like testing the waters and be like, what do you think about gay people? But eventually it was just kind of like a thing of like, well, no one I know is here, you know.
Bitch, you can be whatever you want to be.
Exactly. But I was still like re-closeted to my mom because I wasn't like, I'm not going to talk about this.
Right.
And I was also, you know, plus size and like
insecure,
gross and like insecure. So there was no like, I'm going to get to college and there's going to be like a lot of like canoodling, you know, like it was also
like the American films. They sell the lie to you of like,
exactly.
You go to college, we're going to fuck.
Right.
We're just going to fuck all day long and party. And people do that, though.
Yeah, people
do that. And you can do that.
Yeah. But it's just like, and then eventually I kind of did.
Okay, so you decide, I'm going to have my wet, hot American summer.
Yeah.
And you download Grindr.
I download Grindr and kind of just like start doing the thing, you know, just because I think like subconsciously I've been like, okay, it's time to like be a person, you know. So eventually,
like what am I doing? Like I have urges, like I need to get my freak on.
Exactly. And she's into older men. She's always been into older men.
Okay.
And the youngest person that I've ever been with is Adam. And I met Adam when Adam was like 26 and I was like 23.
Okay.
And so because I don't know, I'm just a freak that way.
Like how old?
I've been with anyone like 40 and up. So like
when you were in your 20s.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And sorry, Mom. I just realized.
Wait, is Mom gonna watch?
I don't know if she will. But my brother might sneak a peek because I mean I don't know. I haven't spoken to my brother in a while, but
The brother that outed you?
Yeah, I've only had the one brother.
Okay.
That is my full brother, my sibling, and I love him.
So disclaimer, mom, brother, if y'all don't want to hear about the grinder, jump off, pause this, skip, and come back, because this is a part of your journey of you becoming you.
Yeah, and it was
so you're dating old white guys upstate.
I mean, I wouldn't date
in Western New York.
And
I mean, not dating. We know what you were doing.
Yeah, I was seeing these gentlemen.
And are you like a little twink? You're like a little twink.
No, I didn't lose weight until I was my junior year.
I mean, you're a fat twink.
Yeah,
right. We were fat twinks. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm just this like fat person, fat boy, I guess, like at that point,
yeah.
And like meeting strange men in cars in Utica,
yeah,
knowing damn well they're warning you about like getting in cars with strangers and like the opioid
when you
crisis.
grow up gay, you do the part.
Yes. No, literally, it's like a fact. It's like it's like a rite of passage.
Yeah, you have to do a little outside voyage, walk into the park.
Yeah,
there's a car moment.
Yeah, I was and still I kind of not one for cruising because I am so dense that I don't pick up on cues.
Same.
Whenever anyone's like flirting with me, I don't understand it. I think they're being weird with me and I get really insecure and I'm like, okay, you know what?
Yeah.
Shut up. I'm gonna go away now.
Yeah.
And like, but it's really funny because now being who I am and how I am, I feel like more people have been like more like open with like I've been called beautiful today I got called a faggot, but
wait, on the train?
No, on the way back. So I had a meeting with a client this morning, and then on the way back from the coffee shop, I was wearing this, but with a blue denim vintage top and a pink satin skirt.
Work.
And I got called a faggot, and I was like, okay, work. It's Saturday.
Yes,
New York.
it's Saturday in New York.
Literally.
The F-bomb is coming around.
Exactly.
The F word is back, by the way.
Oh, my God.
She's so back.
The R word is back, which
the
is
R
so
word has
weird.
been back, and now it's a slow launch for the F word.
And I think I blame the resurgence of Y2K. These like young Gen Z girlies are like, oh my God, do you know like cyberglyphs and like cybergoth and like, like anything.
But also my gay boys who are old like me, they're also like openly still say it, obviously, because it's like, okay, you can say it because obviously.
Yeah.
So they're like, yeah, girl, fuck it. Like, say it. But now it's everyone saying it again, like the straight white boys. That you're really, like, no, we don't
and it's because it's also, I feel like, because you've told them they can't say the N-word. And so they're like, okay, well, like white men will look for any excuse to make.
And they still say the N-word too.
Yeah.
But
it's just like my partner is white and one of my best friends is white. But it's just like I tell them, and like that's the thing with like Alexander and like all of some of the other white people that are like in my circles, they're like, we get it. We get it,
White people that get it. We're not talking about you.
No, we're not.
If you feel offended that we're talking about you, you are the problem.
Yes, literally.
If you are not offended and you agree, you are an ally and we love you. Thank you very much because we need you. Because white people listen to other white people.
Yes.
And we love that.
Yeah.
But if this stings because, I can't say some shit, then yes, you are a problem.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. And
okay, so we're in...
Sorry.
We're in the grinder. We're in the depths of grinder.
Oh my
We're in
God,
our hookup era.
Literally.
We're in our hoe era.
40-year-olds and like, married men.
Right.
Yeah.
Which a lot of grinder is a lot of married men.
Yes. There's like things that you shouldn't be messing around with like married people, but like he hit on me.
20.
Yes.
Yeah, 20.
And also like, he was also like South Asian. So, there is, again, all of those like nuances of like being a person of color, being closeted and like not being able to like express your full self because you have to like fulfill societal norms, even as a brown person.
Yes.
Growing up, we would like watch telenovelas with like my mom and like my grandma and like my tias and so
that's why you have the older man fantasy because it's your dad, but then also the telenovelas.
Yeah, but what's like funny and well, it's not funny. It's kind of like I've been having this thought of like, how gross telenovelas are, because it's like I remember watching this telenovela where this like, oh, I'm a brown indigenous woman with my kid. The only thing I can do is come work for this white lady at her ranch.
Yeah.
And there's the little girl who's about like 11 years old, and there's always the son. And the son is a 30-year-old man, and she's like, oh, I have a crush on this older guy, which is like, yes, crushes, work, party. But then they're like 5 years have passed. She just turned 18, and now she's like, I'm in love with this guy who is the same 30-year-old actor, and it's just like showing us, and who has been like, what's the word, grooming her, to be like in love with him. And so,
that is so fucked up.
And that's a lot of like telenovela.
Was her brother growing up or her stepbrother?
No, it was the son of the owner of
the rich people.
Yes, and he was like a ranch hand, and
oh right, he was like a sexy ranch hand.
And she was like, I'm 12, and I think these are feelings, and he's just like, I'm so suave, and I'm just like, okay,
yeah, very problematic.
Exactly, and it's just like, but also, growing up, we didn't have cable. So that was like we didn't have,
get your fantasy,
like we didn't have
the telenovela,
because it was like,
it is glamour,
it was telenovela, yes, and then it started out with telenovelas, and then I started discovering like TV in English, and we would watch like America's Next Top Model, and we would watch like The Vampire Diaries. And,
oh my god, my daughter is obsessed with The Vampire Diaries.
Oh my god, it's so bad.
It's so bad. I was like, girl, it's like, if you guys don't know what The Vampire Diaries is, it is like this cheesy fucking show, but the first season specifically, when she first started watching, because I'll like listen to her, like I'll hear it, and if she watches shit in the dining room or the living room, and it's like such a moment in that time of like the early 2000s, mid 2000s, it was like, oh my god, Johnny told me that you were here, and everything sounds like breathy and like lustful, and I get it's like the vampire girl is like we love, it's like always about sex, but so I always joke with her, I'm like, oh my god, your vampire porno that you're watching, she's like, mom, I'm like, oh my god, I just don't know, and it's like the sound, the audio is so like, oh my god, you have to come here now to get me,
right, turn me to a vampire, and then there's your brother, and I love both of you, and it's just like, okay, I need a deep girl,
so Vampire Diaries, but I get it for the girlies, because it's like, okay, so
and then there's also like The Big Bang Theory and all that, so there's comedy mixed in with like the weird.
You were dating the older, not dating, meeting with these older men in Utica. You're going to school. Are you starting to feel more into your body? Like you're getting pleasure?
Oh, absolutely not.
Oh, the opposite.
Like if anything, I just kind of like hated myself even more.
For what, having like useless, like emotionless sex?
No, it was more of like, I hated that I felt that they were the only way for me to ever feel any kind of affection. These like older men.
Yeah.
And no offense to all the older men out there.
No.
Still love. I just was just like, this is the only way, because no one who is in my age group in my college is even batting an eye to look at me as anyone more than like that one weirdly shaped brown cow, and so
that's your perspective.
I guess, yes.
That is your perspective.
Yes. Started losing all the weight in Brooklyn, but and it's also because I like would eat like once or twice a week.
A week?
Yeah, because like food was expensive, and my only job was like being an RA, and then like and then I had to get money to like pay for school supplies.
Were you doing drugs the other days that you weren't eating? How were you eating
mom.
Are you talking about once a day or once a week?
No, it was like my mom would also send me these like Herbalife soup packets. So I would make those like sludgy.
Okay, so you got soup. I want to have. I'm down. Sign me up for Herbalife if you're out there.
No, oh my
sponsor
god.
me, please.
Oh my god, it was bad. And looking back at it now, it was like. But the thing is that like I felt like, okay, this is correct, because I'm losing weight.
Yeah.
People are finding me attractive. People are considering me a human being. and men my own age and
Yeah.
are looking at me as someone who
Right.
exists. And then I would go to the bars, in the West Village, back when it was, like back when I identified as like a cis man. And so it was kind of safe for me to exist in these spaces
Right.
because all of these gay bars in the West Village are only for cis gay men,
Yeah.
cis gay white men, especially.
Yeah.
And I would drink and drink and drink and drink until like I felt like woo.
And also you were hungry, so you weren't eating. So
Yes.
you're like easy to be drunk
Yeah.
because you have no food in your stomach.
Yeah. And
so you sound fun. So you're a fun time girl.
I used to, and it's so funny because like I sometimes like like now I'm realizing
It's funny to think of it.
Yeah.
But in real life, it was not fun.
Yeah.
I'm making a joke.
No, yeah.
But yeah.
No, I totally get it. And so, but it felt like
You're like at the Monster.
Yes,
like,
literally
it.
Metropolitan and TNT
in
when TNT was still there.
Oh my God.
That's where I saw Aja and I saw Thorgy Thor.
We love Aja. Those are the Brooklyn girlies.
Yes. And but I was just like, well, this is correct. This is how I should only
society
eat.
is so fat phobic.
Yeah, I'm like,
finally
I should
I'm
only
getting
eat once
attention
a week.
from the gay, and the gays are the worst at
They
the
are.
fat phobia.
Yes, they
no
are.
No fats, no femmes.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're feeling like I'm getting this attention that I haven't had.
Yeah, and so I was working out every day, twice a day.
Okay.
And it was like,
so then
yeah. So I was just like, and I did enjoy the exercise, and I did enjoy, and like, but I was again devoid of a personality, and I was again just moving through this world, being like, this is what I have to do to feel like I am something, and because even like going to Pratt and like going through the photo program, I was like, one, my mom is helping me pay so much money that like sometimes it takes forever for us to like scrim together, and I was like on a payment plan and stuff like that. To be in this school, my electives aren't going to be in photo because that is a waste, So because I was also interested in fashion design, I took shoemaking, I took intro to advertising, I took printmaking, I took jewelry making, and because I was like, I'm going to this grandiose fashion photographer. And also like now it's been kind of something that has resonated with me for a while, is that if I'm going to be photographing a shoot or like doing a shoot with like models and like clothing, I want to know how everything is made so that I can pour in the same amount of like love and work that the people who've made it have, so that we create something good together.
Yes. So you were taking photography, and then you graduated from Pratt, or did not graduate?
I did, but I still owe them money, so they didn't give me the actual diploma. They just give me the little box.
Okay, work. We don't care. Like, we don't need that. So you graduated with a photography degree.
Yes.
And then did you start making jewelry when?
2020.
So in pandemic era.
Yeah, because I had like,
because you had the time.
Yes. I had started designing some things because I took a jewelry making class my sophomore year at Pratt in Utica, and I liked it, I mean I did enjoy it, and I enjoyed like crafting, but I got one critique, and at that point I was just like, this is the end all be all.
You.
Yes, like my professor Chris Irick was just like, you have really great ideas, but your craftsmanship is lacking. And so then I was just like, okay, work. And
that crushed you.
Yes, because I was also...
Because you thought you were that girl?
Well, no, because yes, always. But I had these friends who are amazing artists and who are multi-talented artists. They could draw, they could paint, they could sculpt, they could do jewelry, and they ended up changing their major from like painting to jewelry, from sculpture to jewelry. And like, I was just like, I guess I can take a photograph well, there was always something missing, and there was also like looking back, because I have all these like old photographs and stuff like that, and I'm looking back and I'm trying to remember like aspects of that moment that I found joy in, because they
Like,
had
why
that
did I take this photo,
and it
right?
was kind of like the crafting of things. Like, there's like a photo that I have of my friend Lisa, who was my original metalsmith, who like made jewelry for me that I designed for my partner Adam. Um, and I made this like weird vest that was like, what's his name? This like, do you know Courtney Act, the drag queen?
Yeah.
Do you know season 6? She had this like Klaus Nomi, this
Oh
like
yeah.
Klaus
The like super
Nomi like
graphic.
thing, but
Yes.
it was like made out of black paper, and it like had all of these like folds, and it was like a little crane thing, and I was like, I really like making that. And I guess, and I look back at like sketches, and I've always had these like sketches of these like gowns and like dresses, and I was like, I like the design and crafting of it. And I think it goes back to like memories of my grandpa like whittling my pencil
Yeah.
to sharpen it, and he would make us like these like little tops from wood that he
Oh
would like
yeah.
carve when
Love.
we were living in Oaxaca. And so it's like I feel like I was kind of like craving working with my hands.
Yes.
And it started out like that. Like, I was designing and Lisa was making, and love Lisa. Shout out Lisa Krulasic. Um, and then eventually I was just like, you know what? I'm going to start doing something. Like, I want to start doing this. And so I started kind of like how everyone else starts. Like, uh, I have a friend at the 14th Street and First Avenue flea market, Maria. If you ever go, she's like she's Puerto Rican. She's like the first person who just like a lot of tables for like vintage jewelry.
Wow.
Um, and so I started. Let me go back a little bit more. Iris Amphil, style inspiration. That's kind of where I started.
Iris Apfel. Yeah.
Yes, and
If
then
you don't know her, she wore these amazing, huge,
yes,
big glasses,
there is a
beautiful accessories,
yes.
bangles, cool clothes.
Yes, and I
Yeah.
think like one of the
An
lines like
icon.
yes, and
Especially for
R.I.P.
accessories.
Yes, yes, and like one of the things that kind of resonated with me after I watched her documentary was this one line, and I might be quoting it wrong, but where she talks about like one of the first times someone told her she had great style, and it was like she was at this department store, and there was the wife of the owner of the department store was sitting on this like thing that was like kind of like what the lifeguards kind of stand on,
Yeah.
so that she can like look over, and she looked at her and she was like, you may not be that attractive, but you have really great style. And that
Yes.
resonated with me
Yeah,
because
me too.
I felt like that, like I'm this ugly person, but people have kind of like complimented my style. So let's dive into it, and
Yeah.
I started falling in love with maximalism and like piling things on and like pattern mixing, and then I got my ears pierced, and like that just kind of was like one thing led to another. And when I started making the jewelry, I started taking apart all this vintage jewelry and kind of like learning and like reworking and watching YouTube videos, watching Turquoise Street on
Amazing.
YouTube. Shout out Brittany. Um, and like learning all these like simple techniques, and then um, I just fell in love with it. And so one of my most fond memories is living in my third street. I lived on Third Street between First and Second Avenue in the East Village, and we had this like radiator that would always like spew water.
Yes.
But it was during the pandemic, so me and my partner, bottomless margarita drinkers, the house.
Love.
And
Same. I
because I'm
live.
I'm Mexican, we always have to have Mexican brunch. So we were order from Lapa Lapa, shout out Lapa Lapa on St. Mark's, and this is when everything was like to go drinks and stuff. So we
Yes.
would order 4 margaritas each, and I would just sit at the foot of the bed, and we had like a small TV, and all I remember was just like Moesha and the Parkers and like Girlfriends, and like just watching all of those shows and watching movies, watching Moana, and then just like like of the radiator. And I was just taking apart jewelry and putting beads aside. And like, I got my first piece that sold was to Sammy Joe's mom, Lisa Joe, who I showed. It was like a pair of earrings. It was like a brass chain that I took apart, and I suspended pearls from the each link, and they're pretty chunky, and she liked them, and so I sold them to her for like, I think like $20. And I think they're still on my website. And it was just like, I also like wouldn't be here without the support of like the like Black community, because I've had a lot of like Black women kind of come up to me and like really love my jewelry and like support it, and so
Black women love a statement. Honey,
yes, I
for.
live for because I did a pop up at Ludlow Flea, and this stunning melanated goddess came in and like saw this like brass necklace that I had made from these like vintage agate tumble stones, and she was looking for a statement piece because she was going to this like office party because she was visiting from the UK. And she bought it, and I was just like, oh my God. And I was just like, this piece took me forever, and I love that, like, because brass looks so good on melanated skin. So it just was like, oh my God. And like, so I've had a lot of like Black women, Black femmes like support my art.
So you started in the pandemic, and then when did you start going to flea markets, like
during the pandemic? That my first flea market was 2 years ago, and it was like Ludlow Flea, and it was
amazing.
It was after.
How many pieces did you have out on the table?
Oh, too many.
So you had just made tons of shit.
So before therapy, this was kind of my therapy.
Love.
I started falling in love with like beading, and
that's your personality too, because you're putting like this amazing statement out through your jewelry.
And I've slowly started to figure out that like that's kind of like one way that I'm connecting to like my ancestors.
Yes.
Because not only did all of like my family work the fields and work with their hands, and even now my uncles are mechanics, and my mom is a cosmetologist, and my tias are my tia's a cosmetologist,
and now you
and I was like, this is like my way of doing something. And then when I was like, as I was like doing research and like wanting to like know more, I started to learn that the Newsavi were the goldsmiths of the Aztec Empire. Like they were also like one of the first people to use lost wax, and all of that like kind of originated from the Newsavi. And like, so I'm like, oh, it's in me.
It's in
and
you.
And I recently also told my mom, I was just like, I can't thank you enough for never taking art away from us. Like, my
that is so common.
Yeah, I'm like, you didn't quite understand it, but as long as we were going to school and as long as we were getting good grades, like we had this like freedom to like play video games and also just kind of like draw. As I make jewelry, I think about these memories, and I think about the foods and the chiles and the flowers and conversations with my mom, and my way of remembering is making jewelry out of it. Because I'm not one with the words, but like I've noticed, you give me wire and I'll make a story with the wire, and I'll
give you a sentence with some pearls.
And and pearls.
Is there a specific stone or material that you love? Do you have a favorite?
Yes. One is pearls. Love pearls. Two, pearls found on Turtle Island. Because they're so exceptionally rare and have been used in jewelry for a very long time, and like they're kind of having a resurgence, which I kind of get mad because I'm like, I feel like I kind of brought that into trend, but one can be delusional. But yeah, and one of the reasons,
you know what, you could very well have, because people that walk around flea markets are the people that are in charge of putting things in magazines, or creative directors at big places that can be like, ooh, I see on the streets, because the streets are still where people are getting inspiration from.
Yeah.
So they can see the streets and like, you know, like the Taylor Swift, like those bands with like the little
like the friendship
name.
bracelets.
Yeah,
Yeah. And it yes, and I think that's one of the things that is a really big trigger for my anxiety is that my and I tell this to everybody, so everyone who's listening who's already heard a story, they're gonna be like, "Shut the fuck up." But
I haven't heard it yet.
yeah, like my art, my jewelry doesn't inherently look indigenous, you know, because when you think of indigenous jewelry, what is the first thing that comes to mind? Something beaded, something
or turquoise.
Yes, or if it's silver, if it's metalsmith, it's silver.
Yes,
and there's turquoise, there is like conchos, and if you think about indigenous jewelry from Mexico, you're thinking like work that looks like it's from the Dakotas or motifs like Quetzalcoatl, Techichi, like deities, you know, all of that. And that's great, but it's also like what's kind of out there. But it also like my stuff, my jewelry is my mind, my diary, my love for the stones, the shells that I use, the avocado pits that I carve into jewelry. Like that's
indigenous too, though.
Yes. And that's why like also I love focusing on gemstones found here on Turtle Island, Nabiala, because it's our right. They're ours, you know, and they're the ones from the people whose lands they're from, you know. And the jewelry industry is so wasteful, and it's like is one of those industries that like loves to take and exploit.
Yeah.
And like we're not asking
like
those
fashion
questions
in general.
Yes. You know, and I'm like, you know, there's like all of these like organizations like Fairmind that like have these like, oh, we're paying these miners in Peru like a living wage and all this for like the gold that they're mining. So like, you know, most Fairmind gold I think comes from Peru, and then other gold kind of comes from Thailand. But I'm like, what? Okay, so are you providing healthcare for these indigenous miners?
Exactly.
What are you doing to the land once you've depleted it of this gold? Are you refilling these quarries? Like,
no.
Are you helping like indigenous people like build homes on this land? Is it like is the land too like holy to like exist on? You know, like the jewelry industry has left a lot of like holes on this planet.
Yeah, especially just mining for certain gems and stones.
Yeah, that's why I work with upcycled and like vintage stones.
I love that.
Because it's already been taken. So why don't I continue to focus on what's already been taken? Then continuously add on to the problem.
Exactly.
You know? And like if I do buy something new, I go to local bead shops, go to local stores, get to know the people, and like understand that like if I'm buying something new, it has to be only because I need it.
Yes.
I'm not buying and buying and buying and hoarding and hoarding and hoarding, and then like I have all this excess.
Yeah.
You know. Granted, it has happened once or twice where I buy like bags of gemstone beads, like lots on like eBay. And I will buy like one too many lots and I'll have all these like beads, but I won't do anything with them until I feel like they're calling out to me, because I listen to my rocks and my shells, which is, you know, you think about like divination, you know, and like stuff like that. But like, I let inspiration come to me when they feel like it's ready for them to be made into something.
Yeah. Who do you design jewelry for? Who's your ideal client?
Anybody who likes big like pieces, or like it is very much truly anybody. But I hope, because I've only been doing this for like 3 years, 3.5, maybe 4 years. I want.
Girl, it is 2025 since 2020.
Yeah.
So that's 5 years.
Yeah.
So say it.
Well, it is but El Techichi wasn't born until like 2021.
But you've been designing jewelry.
But I've been,
okay.
like here
or
and there.
You've been making jewelry since the pandemic.
And so El Techichi just, kind of came like in 2021. But I want to make jewelry for anybody. But I want to I have this like I have so many ideas and so many goals, but
Love.
I want to make jewelry for trans women.
Yes.
Because as like a trans individual and plus size women get left out of that conversation in fashion all of the time.
Yes.
You know, and it's just like I want anyone who wants and can wear my jewelry to feel like beautiful
in your adornment.
Yeah, because my jewelry has been like a really big thing for me to find my beauty and make myself feel beautiful. You know, my mom is a cosmetologist, like we've said, but my mom is always just like, you leave the house, you gotta look right, you gotta look correct, you know. And what is correct to me is putting on my skirt, putting on, you know, a comfy t-shirt or a long, like oversized button up, and putting on my Sholo necklace and my pearls and my rings. And
which I'm admiring. I'm obsessed.
Thank you. This is part of the Animalitos collection, you know.
Right.
And it's become so iconic to my brand, which is like really interesting.
That's what I was asking you. I love the name Animalitos.
Yeah.
And this little dog head, is this a dog?
It's the Sholo Squintly.
Oh my god,
you
it's
know,
so
one
beautiful.
of two. Yeah, it's one of two. I think now maybe 3 indigenous dog breeds known to Mexico, because I think they found a way to bring back the Colima dog.
Okay.
And the
genetics.
The harpy eagle is also back in Mexico, which is really, really gorgeous.
It's such a beautiful. Did you have this made, or did you find this?
No, I designed this.
Okay.
I like my grandma, love her. You know, my Abuelita loves pigs.
Yeah,
loves pigs. Love pink. And so she calls her pigs and her goats mis animalitos. I recently had like a really long discussion with my brother about like everything that is my existence. But one of the things is that like he thinks that I'm doing all this like profit.
What, making the jewelry?
Like jewelry and like just decolonizing and like
okay,
you know,
so what's wrong with that?
But it's just like no, I know there and there is like but
you should be making money from your art.
But because
it is gorgeous.
Thank you. But if I wasn't, and if I was able to just do it as like something like
that wasn't your sole intention.
No, then I would still do it,
and
I would and I would still, and if I wasn't making this art and I would still do it like decolonizing and like reconnecting with my roots, I would still do it even if I'm not getting any attention for it, because it's like, you know.
That's why I'm doing the podcast. I'm not doing it to make any money. There's no. It's the opposite. It's sucking money out of me. You know.
Yeah.
But it's for me. I had this calling. I want to amplify my community, and I am doing that, and it brings me so much joy to hear you talk about you finding yourself, and you're in therapy, and other people like us that look like us also need to hear us speaking about these certain things that affect them too, about, you know, maybe not having a personality or thinking you don't have a personality. You went to photography school, you transitioned from a photographer into jewelry, but you still do your day job as a photographer.
Yeah, jewelry photography during the day, which is like now when I'm going to all these events and like I'm doing the panels and stuff in the jewelry industry, people are like, "Oh, aren't you like so and so from so and so?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but that's like my job."
Yes.
5 o'clock hits, don't talk to me about nobody from that place.
Yeah.
You know, like, because I'm here with you. I'm here at the panel that I just did.
You recently just did a panel at the Smithsonian.
Yes.
Which was so cool.
It was very surreal.
And I loved the topic because it was about identity and adornment, right?
Yeah. I was so nervous, girl, because I was in this panel with the Naomi and Tyler Glasses, like, you know, two of the most iconic like Dene people, I think, of our generation.
Yeah.
You know, no offense to any other Dene individual who is also iconic.
Yes.
But I was just like, I am a small legume compared to these icons and titans. And then for the moderator to be someone like I forgot her last name, but Shisemi,
Yeah.
who is now the global editor for like Glamour and like Teen
Allure.
Allure and Teen Vogue and stuff. And I'm
Yes.
like, like these are people who are like established, and I'm over
Yeah.
here, carving avocado pits in my basement with my chihuahua
Yeah.
and talking to my chihuahua, like, because I thanked Rue in my acceptance speech
As you should.
for the Here We Are award. I was just like, I would like to thank the femmes at Relative Arts and my chihuahua,
Yes.
just because, like,
Our animal relatives, they
yes,
give us energy, right?
Rue is the light in my life,
Aw.
and
Is
Rue.
Rue a muse to you? I know you said this, Sammy Joe was a
Oh,
muse,
yes.
but
Oh my God.
Rue is also a muse.
That was also like one of my breakthroughs in therapy where like I was just like, I hate when people think I'm so stupid for loving my dog, but I love my dog, and like she has these big beautiful brown eyes, and
Aw.
every time I look at these beautiful brown eyes and this little tiny body, it just makes me feel like I'm whole. And like she got me thinking about brown people in media and in the arts, because growing up, you hear Chihuahuas are this, Chihuahuas are that, Chihuahuas are blah blah blah,
Yeah.
and so then I got a Chihuahua, and it was the complete opposite. And so then I found out Chihuahuas are also the second most euthanized dog breed in shelters here in the United States, second, and the first one being pit bulls. And
Yes.
I was just like, how can you kill something that is so
I know.
small and adorable and loves so hard?
Yeah.
Chihuahuas love you to death.
Yeah.
Sometimes too
Too
much.
much.
Sometimes too
They're
much.
like, bitch, get away
Or
from
literally,
everybody.
yes.
Clear the room now. Because this
Exactly.
is my bitch.
Exactly.
You don't even
Yeah.
go here. Get out
Exactly.
of here.
And Rue
Yeah.
was this like spark that started a lot of all of this. So like, he's a deerhead chihuahua, because there's applehead chihuahuas, deerhead chihuahuas, and
Okay, I don't
long-haired
know what that
chihuahuas.
means.
I'm like a chihuahua aficionado now.
Right.
And
Applehead?
she is a deerhead.
Deer head. Oh, is this the shape of their face?
Yeah.
Gorge. So like
She's
that.
yeah,
That's like a
yeah,
deer, right?
yeah. So this is the show Squeakley, and I think that's one of the reasons why they have like this head is because like the breeding. I don't know.
I lit.
It was just like, yes, like she is so brown and so beautiful, and
Yes.
so are we.
Yes.
And it was this thing of like Rue was this kind of like key to unlocking a lot of wants and desires for me to want to love myself and to be whole and complete, and like I couldn't be here, or I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for this little dog. So when I was coming up with the brand, I was like looking up the history of Chihuahuas, and that Techichi or Tlachichi is the ancestor of the Chihuahua. And so I was just like, that's it.
That's it.
That's it. And I came up with the logo. I sketched it out, and Adam kind of like fleshed it out on Illustrator, and that iconic logo now of the Chihuahua with the pyramid and the two suns is an original concept from my brain and from Adam's computer, but it's Rue's face. It's Rue's face. I
Oh,
was staring at her face, and it's just like these same big, beautiful brown eyes that I love to stare into and just like get lost in.
yes.
You
And
know,
they're hopeful and they give you
yes,
hope.
and no matter what happens, no matter like how low I feel, she always knows, and she like will come up to me and she'll be like, "Hey, I love you,"
Yeah.
and that's something that I didn't really get told a lot growing up.
Yes.
Like, "Hey, I love you," and so then I'd be like, "Oh, I love you,"
Oh,
and do you know how much I love you? She's so spoiled. She's a spoiled little bitch, but like, but
yes.
she is. People are always just like, "Oh, it's a dog," and I'm like, "No, you're a dog.
Yeah.
This is my
You don't
baby.
understand. This
Yeah,
is my like
this is my
dogs
world."
are yeah, because we're humans we're human supremacists. Right? We're like we're the smartest, most da, 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 da,
Yeah,
and that's
we're
just
at
not
the top of
true.
the food chain.
That's just not true.
Yeah.
Like
No.
our animal relatives give us so much joy and
Mm-hmm.
are so important to people and are like literally saving lives.
Yes, literally. And
You
that's like
know, giving hope to people that don't have hope right now
exactly.
in this
Yeah.
hopeless
Mm-hmm.
feeling era of
Mm-hmm.
what we're in, the world
Yeah.
right now.
And that's why this collection is like mis animalitos, and like in the back you see like
Oh
That's
my
my
God,
logo,
it's
and
so
it's just like
good.
Mis Animalitos is this collection that is very slow because it takes a while to like come up and like think of together, uh, and put together. But it's a collection that highlights and will highlight almost all of the indigenous animals in Mexico. And I have the coati, and that's at Relative Arts, and the manta ray that was worn by Lily
Yes.
Gladstone, and
Oh yes, you have adorned Miss Lily Gladstone.
yeah, twice. And
Ah,
is
love.
and hopefully more times,
More,
like, but
yes.
also
And we're gonna have more indigenous actresses and actors
yes, no,
wearing.
and that's the thing too, is that like that is the thing too where I get upset with these like so-called Latinx, Latino, whatever people who are like, I'm for the cultura, but I'm only gonna wear Givenchy, Prada, and it's just like, okay, but that's not your cultura, bitch.
Yeah,
Like, and then
exactly.
when you also, on the other hand, when you see all these Latin people like creatives be like, oh, for the culture, for the thing, it they leave out often than not indigenous people from these lands, and their
Yes.
entire aesthetics are focused on colonial stories, colonial motifs, religion, religious iconography. Like, I understand La Virgencita de Guadalupe and like
Yeah, she's
all of
gorgeous. We
this,
love her.
I,
Yeah.
I get it, it's iconic, and it's like, and it's now a part of this culture. But again, you are leaving out indigenous creatives because they're not pandering to this colonial idea of what it means to be from these places.
And also what it means to be have made it. Right? Like, these people come up from, the ground up, have had a hard life for sure. And so once they make it, right, they want to show the world that they've made it. And how some people choose to show it is wearing Givenchy and
Yeah.
Balenciaga and be like, I'm that bitch because now I have like the Hermes bag. And so that's their own voyage. But I truly hope that, the indigenous baddies, the indigenous celebrities are always going to wear, because
Yeah.
that's just been our adornment. And for us, that is like so much more special than a Givenchy necklace or a Balenciaga
Yeah.
bag. Like,
You see it, and that's what I was saying. Like, when you see it with like a perfect example is Lily Gladstone.
yes.
And another example would be like Beyonce.
Yeah.
Who's
Kaylee
wearing,
Reese, she wears a
yeah,
lot of indigenous.
like, but like a lot of like black brands. Like
Yeah.
the the indigenous community and like the black community are doing it right.
Yes.
Where they're like, okay, well, we're gonna uplift our own. Like, look at Issa Rae. Like, I love
Yes.
Issa Rae.
Oh my
I
God.
would love to put you on Issa Rae.
Yes.
Tracy Ellis Ross, call me,
Yes.
girl. She sent me,
Yes.
said that she was at this event with like Tracy Ellis Ross, and I was just like, oh my god, I would bow down.
Yes.
Tracy Ellis Ross, I guess nepo baby, but like she gets passed.
But we love.
Yes, but like they're uplifting their own communities,
Yes.
but like if you're for the culture, be for the culture.
Yeah.
All of it. You can't just be for the culture, pick and choose, buy a baseball team, and then
Yeah.
not talk about the genocide in Palestine or ICE
Exactly.
raids.
Yeah.
And it's just like, because then it's just like, then you're not.
So basically, do more.
Yes, that's
Do
what I'm saying,
more.
and it's
Like,
just
because
like,
if we were in those positions and we had that money and reach, we would be doing that.
yes, that's one of my biggest dreams in life is to have a scholarship. And I want to name it like the Estelita Foundation. My mom's name is Estela, and they call her Estelita in the salon.
I love that
And
name.
the Estelita Foundation would provide a scholarship.
Estelita is like stars?
Yeah, it's like an Italian, like her name is like Italian.
I love.
And I wanted that scholarship to like, and it's really wild to think that even at a point where like I might be able to do this, that like we might even still have like undocumented people, because it's like all like the border is like so not real. But when I was undocumented and when I was trying to look for funding, and like even now, like when I'm looking for funding for the arts and like jewelry, there really isn't any. And so I want to start a scholarship that would
Yes.
give a scholarship to an undocumented Indigenous student who wants to study
Yes.
jewelry or design or art,
Yes.
because when I was looking for it, there was none. That's why I
There's
have so many
nothing.
loans, because that's
Yeah.
all that they're like. You're only good to give for this for loans,
Yeah.
and that's one of my biggest dreams is that I always
Oh,
tell my partner,
manifest it. Let's
yeah,
let's do this.
yeah.
What award did you get last? Was it this year or the
Last
last
year,
year?
yeah, I got the Here We Are award, and it's from New York City Jewelry Week. Shout out New York City Jewelry Week, doing really great things. It's like it's an award. It's called Here We Are because it was like it's part of this initiative to fill in the gap in the jewelry industry that is left, because there's no representation from like Black and brown and indigenous jewelry makers, and I think
Which is
that's
crazy because there's so many of us.
yes. Wait, yes,
Like crazy.
like there is, and that's one of the things that like that is like why I'm taking every kind of like bit of momentum that I'm having, and hopefully being able to give it back to community, because I would not be anything without community.
Yeah.
Period. Like everything that I have, everything that you see before you is all because of the aunties at Relative Arts, because
Yes.
of the new Mixteca community that I've been starting to build and starting to connect with my community, my mom and my brother. Like I am a product of community.
Yes. So we talked a little bit about the relative arts aunties we
Oh
we
my
love.
God.
And you sell at Relative Arts.
I do. Yeah. My
Do you sell anywhere else?
I have pop-ups here and
Okay.
there. I think, which I feel like I kind of have to get more on it, because like coin is little and bills are aplenty.
Yes.
But I kind of
And they keep coming. Like the
they
bills just
do
keep
like
keep happening. Like they don't stop. Like I need them to
exactly.
stop.
Oh my God.
How do
And
we
they-
get them to
death.
stop?
Like
Literally.
But yeah, so I have been trying to do more pop-ups, but I have been kind of taking a step back from pop-ups, because I have kind of taken it upon myself to do some very kind of like secret, not being able to talk about yet projects that are eating up a lot of my time.
Okay.
And my art is also getting more more complex. There's more aspects to it. There's more techniques that I'm learning that are very time consuming. And so a lot of the times I feel like a lot of my stuff isn't very pop-up friendly.
Okay.
And I've had some, like, let's call them colleagues, tell me like, well, why don't you have like basics ready to wear, like kind of like
Yes.
simple collection.
Easy to sell.
Done it.
Online.
Doesn't sell.
Okay.
You
sell online?
I have my website, yeah, but
Okay.
I think I'm gonna end up having to change that too, because I don't really sell much from it, and Shopify is expensive, and so
Okay.
it's like $40-50 every month for me to not sell anything.
Oh, yeah.
So I kind of maybe want to do like more of have a website that's more of like a portfolio of imagery of my jewelry and a stockist, like where to find it. And I still want to do pop-ups, and I still want to have my jewelry be accessible and at an accessible price point and stuff like that. But it is getting where I kind of want it to be, which is like very like bold and grandiose.
Yes.
Because I kind of want to be like on that same vibe as like David Webb,
Yeah.
and like not necessarily David Yurman, but like I want El Techichi to be like Tiffany's.
Yeah, but at that level of David
at that level,
yeah.
but also still keep integrity and not because
exactly.
you can. Be
I love
cool.
hearing you talk about adornment and being your authentic self. From when we started this interview, you not knowing who you are and figuring it out. And did you have any adornment back in those days, or has your adornment grown as your identity to?
It has
knowing your identity, has it grown?
It's kind of fluctuated.
Cohesively?
I kind of thought about it recently too, because I was looking back at photos and my phone also ran out of storage, and and I'm not paying the 99 cents to Apple, no ma'am.
Okay.
Not until they stop killing people in Congo and Sudan.
Exactly. Period.
Right.
Period.
And so I was just like, I was looking back at all these photos, deleting photos, and I found photos of me when I was during the lockdown, and I was still styling jewelry on myself because it made me feel like I wasn't going stir crazy. And I had on more. I do wear more when I'm more at like a formal function, but I'm working with my hands constantly, and I'm running around a lot. So now, like, it went from like at the beginning it was mostly vintage jewelry, piling on the necklaces, and now that it's like my own stuff, and my mom is always just like, "You are your number one billboard.
Yes,
You are your
wear
number one
shit.
billboard. So if you're gonna be making jewelry, XYZ, whatever, clothing, you could cutting hair. I don't know about you cutting your own hair and then be like, I did
But
this,
yeah.
you know. But she's like, wear your shit. And so I am wearing my shit, and I'm also realizing what is resonating with people and what isn't resonating with me. And so I'm like, yes, I still have moments where I'm like putting on all like 10 necklaces and a ring on each finger, and it's still very much the El Techichi aesthetic. But now I'm like, these that you see on here, these are my amulets, you know, and these are the ones, these pearls have always brought me luck, you know. The Xolos Quintly necklace has become so iconic. And I did my most recent pair was with the Taylor You Could Tell, and it's because I wanted to do something that was so iconic to me, because the jingles on those earrings were iconic and special to Taylor, because they come from a shop in her reservation, and she's so about her people, you know, and like bringing her people to the forefront. And so I was just like, this is an icon meeting an icon, like coming together and and those were the earrings that are on Molly at the Oscars, you know, those earrings. And I was just like, this is, I like it's how they say in Spanish, like sin querer queriendo, no, like this, I just made it, and without knowing, it became like the most popular and most beloved piece. That and the manta rays be the most beloved pieces from the Animalitos collection.
The manta rays are gorgeous.
You know, that was the second piece that I had on Lily. The first piece were these calla lily earrings that I had. And you know, like, I love that moment, because I got a little shout out in Vogue when they wrote about like that little moment, and she was talking about how they only wanted to wear indigenous made jewelry, and they were like, this time it was El Techichi earrings. And then I was in London. It was actually, that was my first time out of the country, and I'd never been outside of the country after I became a citizen. So I was like, for my birthday, I'll go to London. And I don't want to do the Big Ben thing. I just want to go to London because I've always wanted to go to London. And I go to London, and we had just had drinks at a pub with the friends that we were seeing, because Adam's best friend lives in London. And I get like that notification from I like a screenshot from Leanna and Karina, you know, that Lily is wearing my things, and then it ends up on Vogue.com. And
where did she wear it to?
The Loewe fashion show for Paris Fashion Week. Yeah. And so I was just like, oh my God. I was like, no freaking way. And it was my birthday. And it was like, so I call my friends. I call Sammy Jo and Alexander. Shout out my babies. I was just like, girl, one word, Vogue. And at that time, she was just like, did you watch that documentary without me? But I was like, no, Vogue. Like, my stuff is in Vogue. You know, granted, it's just a little shout out. It's just a little picture. But still, you know, and I was just like, that was like this. And then she won the Gotham Award, and she wore the manta rays, and then that went like that. And then the connection I have in Hawaii, they came here for a thing with the UN, and they're native Hawaiian. And and they came and they bought those earrings because they saw them on a lily glass stone, and they also have a connection with the manta ray, because
of course,
and so I was just like, oh my god, that's why I hate when people call it a stingray, and I'm like, no, you're animals, that is not a stingray. Know your zoology, god damn it. But and then so that happened.
Oh, that's amazing.
And then during the Native Fashion Week, again, Emmy was on like in an article in Vogue, and of course it was my earrings. It was that orange fringe dress, and I was just like, oh my god,
just so gorgeous. That was such a beautiful show.
Yes, and I could not be more grateful to Karina.
Yes,
for asking me to make jewelry for it. I cannot thank you enough for like pushing me as an artist, because like you have this idea, and so I want to create jewelry that is going to fit this idea that you have, but I only know this idea so much because I'm not in your head, so this is my way of taking my life, my stories, my memories of my mom and my food, and putting it into your vision.
Omar, thank you so much for being here today.
I told you I was a gabber.
I'm obsessed. Omar, you are a well, and you have so much to offer. You're giving us this beautiful jewelry.
Thank you.
That's coming from...
what do you call her?
Mama New. And I'm so excited because you are just so new at this, and you have so much to give, and you are inspired, and we're benefiting from that inspiration. There's no one like you. You're so special.
I try.
So where can people find you?
El Techichi Jewelry on Instagram.
On Instagram,
yeah. And it's the same. The link for my website is in my bio.
Okay, perfect.
But you can also find me loafing around at Relative Arts.
Yes.
And
hanging
also
out in the East Village.
Yeah, with the aunties and corrupting minds. Yes. I also list pop-ups whenever I have pop-ups. But hopefully someone out there will like pick up some more of my jewelry, because I would like to have my jewelry sold at like other kind of retailers. Yeah. Because like I was saying, like doing a pop-up now is like such a like convoluted and like time consuming thing, and my jewelry is also time consuming to make and create, and I also have a day job, and I'm also doing these things behind the scenes that like require a lot of attention and energy, that it would be really nice to be able to like ship off some of my jewelry to like other retailers, so that also other humans can experience it.
Yes. Everybody should experience your beautiful artwork.
Thank you.
And your
Thank you so
beautiful
much.
jewelry. Thank you so much for being here. I love
Thank you so much.
My Libra lady.
God.
We're Libra ladies.
Yes. Libra is the house.
But yeah, that's going to wrap it up.
Thank you.
Thank you, relatives.
So thank you.
See you soon, cousins.
Yes. Bye.